At a recent press conference, Mayor Daley was joined by Chicago public school officials and U.S. Treasurer Rosie Rios to announce that CPS has received $750 million in bonds supported by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. The funding will be used to build new schools, renovate existing schools, and reduce debt. Here are highlights of the January 6th news conference.
Our country has gone through some very, very difficult economic times over the last 2 years, and unfortunately, it's here to stay for a little longer period. And we know that too many people are out of work. They've been fired, they've been eliminated, laid off. Too many people have lost their homes to foreclosure, and far too many on a daily basis are struggling just to meet their bills. Although I'm increasingly optimistic that better times are coming, but I firmly believe that the full impact of recession has yet to play out, and that is a very sad story. It's still being played out much heavier. Unfortunately, there will be more people losing jobs. Home foreclosures will be more of a record high as well. When the economy does improve, many business leaders foresee a recovery in which few new jobs will be created. Again, that is the problem. When the economy improves, many business leaders foresee a recovery in which few new jobs will be created, and that is the problem. And that is why it's so important that we use every possible tool here in Chicago to kickstart our economy. Get as many people back to work over short or long-term periods, support the type of programs that will build a better future for our citizens. One of the most important tools we've had over the past year to stimulate our economy and help people get through these difficult times. I want to thank President Obama, the Federal Economic Stimulus Package, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. A lot of people have criticized it, but you remember it has helped us tremendously here in the city, and I'd like to point out many of the programs. The federal program has been a huge undertaking, but we have made sure that Chicago has received its greatest possible benefit from the funding. We've been awarded more than $1.1 billion and applied for an additional $1.5 billion in competitive grants under the program. We have used this support to create jobs, improve infrastructure in areas of energy, environment, transportation, housing, workforce development, and public safety. With the money, we have resurfaced streets, replaced subway tracks, purchased new hybrid buses, rehab 6,800 public housing units, help people facing foreclosure, provide more than 7,000 young people with summer jobs, to name just a few of the uses. One of the most important ways we use federal stimulus funding is programs that really support the key to our future is the Chicago public school system. As I often say, the key to building a strong, secure economic future for our city, for our state, and our nation is providing every public school student with a quality education that allows them to fulfill their potential in life. The support from the federal stimulus program comes at a critical time for helping us achieve that goal. And that's why I'm happy that U.S. Treasurer Rosie Rios is here today. I want to thank her on behalf of the City of Chicago for the big impact that the federal programs has had on our public schools. I know she's very familiar with the challenges faced by cities, as I pointed out, because of her years of experience in development in the private sector as well as the public sector, and Director of Economic Development for the City of Oakland, California. Chicago Public Schools has received about $400 million in grants, which has been used for homeless youth programs, neglected children programs, noise reduction programs, budget stabilization. But perhaps even more significantly, it's Build America and qualified school construction bond programs. The federal program has made it possible for Chicago Public Schools to issue more than $750 million in bonds that will provide funds for building new schools, expanding, renovating existing schools, reducing debt service. Here at Hitch, the federal program is helping us repair the roof, make the building ADA compliant with new fire alarms, elevator, bathrooms, and ramps. Remember, in a time of severe budget pressure, every dollar we can save an annual debt service is a dollar we can use to improve classroom education. The Chicago Public Schools expects to save about $6.2 million per year in debt service over a 20-year period. That money already has helped renovate 4 turnaround schools. Chicago Public Schools expect to issue $200 million in Build American bonds this spring to help finance renovations and new construction projects citywide. Some may ask why building new schools and renovating existing ones is so important. To me and many others, it's very clear. When you open a new school or fix an existing one, you give students and staff a fresh start. Greater hope, of course, an improved learning environment. You provide a new anchor for the community. And also you set priorities. What is the priority of your government? And it's education. That is the highest priority. Many of our school buildings are decades older. The schools we're able to build and renovate because of the federal program are the schools of tomorrow. And decades to come, they reflect our ongoing commitment to improving education in neighborhoods all across our great city. I want to thank the Obama administration and the Congress for putting the Recovery and Reinvestment Act in place. We are responsibly using these funds to help Chicago working and middle class get through these very difficult and challenging times in the short term, and we're using them to build a brighter future for the children of the city of Chicago. At this time, I'd like to introduce the U.S. Treasurer, Rosie Rios. Rosie. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome to Chicago.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Daley. It is indeed an honor to be here. And I want to just say on a personal note, as was mentioned, I spent about half my career in the public sector, specifically on economic development and tax increment financing issues. And so these types of projects, for me, are a very personal one to see the fruits of our labor in these public-private partnerships come to life. And so for me, I look at these programs, specifically the Build America bonds, is not just an investment in infrastructure. It's an investment in the future. It's an investment in the next generation. It's an investment in our children. And so to see here and to see this school with its test scores and know that it's on this progressive path for further improvement is absolutely wonderful. So again, thank you so much. And thank you also, Principal Reese, for having me here today. The work being done on this school is emblematic of the comeback of this great city and our nation's economy. Only a year ago, and I was here actually in DC on the transition team for the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, so I was able to witness firsthand what was happening during our country's time. And at that time, we were facing financial panic and an economic decline so swift that many people feared we were headed for a second Great Depression. Illinois was losing more than 100,000 jobs a month, and the unemployment rate was rising rapidly. But by November, the most recent month for which numbers are available, Illinois was actually adding a modest number of new jobs, and the unemployment rate was down instead of up. Of course, we still have a long way to go to meet the President's goal of every American who wants a job being able to get one. But the fact is that the financial system has stabilized and the economy has begun to recover. The administration's Recovery Act is a big part of the reason why we are moving from recession to recovery. And Build America bonds are a big part of the reason why the act is working. Build America bonds are taxable bonds that provide a 35% interest subsidy to the state and local governments that issue them. They have had positive effects for the moment they were introduced, both here and across the country. Prior to Build America bonds, the traditional market for state and local bonds were frozen, forcing governments to suspend projects, lay off workers, and put off needed work. But since their introduction last April, the markets for both Build America bonds and more traditional government bonds have taken off. You can see the evidence right here in Chicago. The Chicago public school system has issued $518 million worth of Build America bonds for construction and improvement of school facilities. School system officials estimate that the combination of revived market for state and local bonds plus the 35% federal subsidy have saved them millions over what they otherwise would have had to pay. That savings that can go to fund further improvements, create more jobs, and improve the educations of the city's school children. You can see the evidence in almost every state in the Union, where governments have issued more than $64 billion in Build America bonds to finance projects that are putting thousands back to work, helping to rebuild a nation's infrastructure, and helping to ensure that recent improvements in the economy build on themselves to produce a full, self-sustaining recovery. We have come a long way over the past year. Last January, for the first time in the lives of many of us, our nation's economy was on the edge of collapse. Today, because of a comprehensive strategy that was put in place by President Obama and the Congress that includes Build America bonds, we are back from the brink. We are back because there are men and women, like many of those here today, who are working thanks to Build America bonds. Their work is not simply building an improved Hitch School. It is building a new, firmer foundation for this city's future and for the nation's. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the honor of meeting you, Mayor Daley, and Principal Reese, and to all the school children here as well. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Also, I'd like to have Ron Human say a few words about the program, Ron, and some of the things we're going to be doing.
Great, thank you. I want to also just echo the words and thank Principal Reese here at Hitch. The numbers are really great in terms of what's happened, so I'm going to highlight it. Back in 2005, you had 59% of the students attending the school that, excuse me, that were meeting or exceeding on test scores. You fast forward to this past year, and it was 80% were meeting or exceeding. That's illustrative of what's going on across this city when it comes to improvements. The Build America Bond Program in the Chicago Public Schools is being rapidly executed on as the mayor has pushed all of the departments to make sure that as investment dollars come in, they're spent. And in fact, in totality, we've issued $750 million in bonds supported by the American Reinvestment Act. 518 were in the Build America bonds, and then we had also $254 million bonds in the Qualified School Construction Bonds program. Those dollars allowed us to restructure our debt and also reduce our debt service costs, which helps our bottom line deficit, but in conjunction allows us to spend real dollars. So if you take a look at this particular school, $8 million will get spent. This building will get a new roof. It will become ADA compliant for the first time with elevators and other critical upgrades, including a full new electrical service throughout the whole facility, which is going to allow us to expand computers into every single classroom. This is just illustrative of some of the results of the American Reinvestment Act that are helping schools across the city. And so not only has it helped our bottom line short-term deficit reduction, but is also helping long-term improve the quality of the physical plants of our schools.